What documentation do you need for a marriage-based green card that is being filed through the National Visa Center and ultimately at a U.S. consulate overseas? That's what we're talking about on today's episode of Sumner School Family Immigration Basics. My name is Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration Law. The documentation that you will need for a marriage-based green card process when you're filing the I-130 with USCIS and eventually applying for an immigrant visa at a U.S. consulate overseas will vary depending on the stage of the process that you're in. So we're going to walk through this step by step, stage by stage. Keep in mind that this is a high-level overview for educational purposes only. It is not legal advice. You may need additional documentation or things may change between now and the time that you're going through the process. So make sure that you get proper legal advice from a qualified immigration lawyer before you take action. The first stage of the process is the I-130 petition. For that, you have to show that you are married. So submit a copy of your marriage certificate. Proof that the petitioner is a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. Proof of your previous marriages. So that is for the petitioner and for the foreign national spouse, for both spouses. If either or both of them had been married before, we have to submit proper documentation of the dissolution of all the marriages. So for example, if a person has been married 5 times before, this is their 6th marriage, we have to submit documentation to show that all 5 prior marriages were fully dissolved. So that's a copy of the divorce decree or death certificate. In addition, we submit documentation of the bona fides of the relationship to show it's a true relationship and not just for immigration purposes. We have a more detailed video, it's episode 14 in this series, Sumner School Family Immigration Basics, where we talk about what USCIS looks at, the types of things they consider, and determining whether a relationship is a true relationship. And that information applies to Department of State as well. So take a look at that. Generally speaking, high level, the documentation of the relationship can be things like communication between the two parties of the couple, proof that you have lived together, if that's the case, so joint lease or mortgage, joint financial documentation, photos, proof that you've been to visit each other, that type of thing. The second stage of the process is the National Visa Center process. At that stage, the foreign national will need to submit copies of civil documents. Civil documents is things like a copy of the police certificate for every country that you've lived in since the age of 16, a copy of the birth certificate, your marriage certificate, again, dissolution documents, so divorce decrees, death decrees for previous marriages for the foreign national and or their spouse, financial documents for the Affidavit of Support. So that can be things like tax returns, pay stubs, W-2s, 1099s. Depending on the situation, the foreign national may also need to upload things like military records, criminal documents, court records, things like that, if that's applicable. And then, of course, the Form DS-260 is also uploaded at that particular stage of the process. The third and final stage of the process is applying for the immigrant visa at the U.S. consulate overseas. For that stage, clients in general will need updated documentation of the relationship. So that's updated photos, proof that you have been to visit each other, if you have updated communication, things like that. Updated proof that you are still together and that it's still a true relationship. In addition, the foreign national will need to bring original or certified copies of the civil documents that they submitted at the NVC stage. So that's things like the original or certified copy of the birth certificate, marriage certificate, the dissolution certificate for any previous marriages like divorce decree or death certificate, updated financial documentation. So there might be updated tax returns or updated pay stubs. And then the medical exam, the foreign national does that just before the interview at the U.S. consulate, and there are very specific instructions on how to do that. There are specific doctors that you have to go to, so it generally cannot be done ahead of time. So those are the types of documents that you need. Like I said, it really varies depending on the stage of the process that you're in, but it is so helpful to have a clear idea ahead of time of the types of documents that you'll need so that you can start thinking about that proactively. Here are some things that I see people make mistakes with. One is not having the documents translated into English. In general, any document that's in a foreign language needs to be translated to or include a translation into English. That can be done by anybody who's fluent in both the source language and English, and it should have a certification at the bottom, certified translation. In addition, I see that sometimes people submit documentation that does not meet the reciprocity table requirements. So there is available online, it's published by the Department of State, what's called a reciprocity table. And that tells us exactly what type of document the Department of State or USCIS will accept for that particular document for that particular country. So for example, if you were to Google, let's say that you're from Finland and you Google Finland reciprocity table or reciprocity schedule, that will come up with a Department of State website. Make sure you're looking at a Department of State website, and it will tell you exactly the type of birth certificate that you need and where to get it, how to get it. Same thing for divorce decrees or police certificates. Any number of the documents that you need or all of them should be listed there to tell you exactly what type of document is needed. And it's critical that your document meet that requirement, or else the NVC and or the consulate will not accept it, and that will delay the process. So it's important that the documents be translated into English, that they meet the reciprocity table agreements or reciprocity table requirements rather, and that you submit the correct documentation. If you don't submit the correct documentation to the NVC, they'll send you an email. Sometimes it's cryptic saying we're missing this, but it's hard to understand exactly what they're asking for sometimes. Or same thing with the consulate. If you don't bring the updated documentation or any additional documentation they may ask for, your case may be delayed or denied. So it's critical to be thinking ahead, planning ahead, so that you are sure to have everything that you need. If you need help with this or any other aspect of a family-based or employment-based immigration process, we are here to help. My name is Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration Law, and we would love to help you. We help clients from all over the world and all over the United States every day, all day. We walk clients through this process step by step, walking along your side, answering questions along the way, so that our clients feel educated, supported, and confident about the process. There will be information on an outro slide about how to contact us for a consultation, which would be the first step. Otherwise, if you found this information helpful, I hope you will share this video with a family member or friend. Make sure you subscribe to this channel with alerts on so you don't miss our next video. My name is Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration Law. Until next time.